What's up, guys? Thanks so much for stopping by the channel today. We got another one of our Hail Caesar faction reviews. We're moving right along. We're still in that roughly 3rd century range. There's so many lists to get through. Recently, we took a look at Hellenistic Greece, so basically post-Alexander Greece. Now we're taking a look at Bactrian Greeks here, and again, another one of these sort of successor kingdoms that sprouted up afterwards. So let's take a look at it. And this covers roughly 3rd through 1st century BC still. So, again, largely infantry focused, although the requirement there is lower than some of the other similar lists that we've looked at. But at least a quarter of the army, and again, not including skirmishers, does have to be infantry. But here also cavalry can be 25% or more. So really, depending on how you want to go with that, you could go very infantry heavy, cavalry heavy, or kind of a balance between the two. Interestingly, the list also lets us have chariots and then also elephants. So in some ways, giving us some things that we didn't have with the actual Alexandrian list or some of the other successor kingdoms so far that we've looked at, but kind of combining all of our options here. So again, chariots and elephants in the same list is kind of cool too. Beyond that, typical division restrictions there, although a little note with the guard cavalry there, does have to be part of the general's division, which makes sense, and then the skirmishers per division as normal. No artillery here though. But nonetheless, it's a kind of diverse list, which you maybe if you're not too familiar with the Bactrian kingdom that sprouted up, but it's surprisingly quite a bit in this list here, which is pretty cool to see as well. So, and again, another great opportunity to collect and paint something that isn't your stereotypical Greek or Macedonian list. So just some interesting options that you could explore there on the paint and hobby side. So let's jump right in. So we got our Phalangites, heavy infantry with pikes, so pretty standard stuff there. So phalanx and drilled for 35 points a pop makes sense. So again, just starting off with some very solid heavy infantry that will get do a lot of work for you. Then we go right into some peltists here, or native light infantry with spears or javelins, or spears and javelins, I should say. And we can also downgrade them into light units there. So pretty standard stuff on the light side and some short-ranged missile fire there. Then we get Indian medium infantry with mixed ranks of spears, javelins, and bows. So it'd be interesting to see how to put that together and what kind of models to use for that. But about what you'd expect from medium infantry, although, again, that hybrid nature of it really makes it an interesting unit there. So you get typical medium infantry combat ability combined with short and long range prowess there. So a very solid backup, honestly, to back up the Phalangites and kind of maybe intersperse them there, or certainly something to keep on their flanks just to whittle enemies down that get a little bit too close to that. Then just simply medium infantry with bows, so a little bit cheaper, but also a little drop in combat ability. We do still get a 5-up stamina save, which is cool for them being medium infantry, but really just 2 points cheaper to focus on, I guess, just sort of long-range ability. That being said, for 2 points more, it almost makes sense just to get that mixed unit. 2 points is generally negligible. You might as well get that extra combat ability, at least the way I look at it. But I guess if you wanted to sort of have something specifically dedicated to long range and kind of show that, I suppose you could go that route. Then we get into skirmishers, so lots of small unit action here as we would expect as normal. So we get our javelin option, slings, and then bows. So again, still lots of short range ability with, again, a couple more long range options there with our typical point ranges there. Then we get into the cavalry, and there's some interesting stuff going on here. So we get Greek cavalry, medium cavalry with spears or javelins. So again, that typical medium cavalry profile. No other special rules or anything to boot there, but again, just a solid option. Then we get into Greek or Bactrian heavy cavalry with spears or javelins. And here's where it gets a little bit more interesting, right? A couple more points gives you a clash of 9, sustain of 6. So again, it does drop off, but again, you're just able to bring that much more damage on the charge or that first round, certainly, and then the better stamina save too. And here's where you could upgrade that one unit to a guard unit, which gives them elite for another 3 points, which is pretty solid and certainly worth considering if you're gonna take a heavy unit, you might as well upgrade the one to the guard unit. But again, that will be in your general's division there. Would have been interesting to maybe see just a little bit more there in addition to elite. I'm not sure what they would get, but overall still a good option there. But maybe something like, well, I don't know if stubborn would necessarily make sense, but and nonetheless, still a good option. Then we get another interesting cavalry option here, the Saka. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right, but we'll go with it. Heavy cavalry with bows and kontos, which I do believe is supposed to represent like a lance, or at least another long spear type of thing. And just one unit of those. So, and again, fairly expensive at 35 points. For that one unit, but you still get that heavy cavalry damage profile and morale save. No special rule, but you do get a little bit of long range ability there, so it's an interesting hybrid as well. And again, not something that the opponent would necessarily be thinking about there. Then we get that same thing as horse archers, basically as small units. So these guys get Parthian shot, so it's cool to have that on tap, basically, as far as no unit restrictions there, really. Obviously not designed for close combat, but again, mobile long-range firepower is really cool, along with the Parthian shot ability. Then we just get an Indian version of medium cavalry here with basically the same profile as the Greek one, so I guess just more on the modeling side if you want to go that route. What else here? Light cavalry with javelins as small units, so feigned flight on tap is pretty cool too. So again, just hit and run tactics there to help set up some things for the other cavalry. Light cavalry with javelins and bows, a small unit. So again, another feigned flight unit that you have access to in quantity, and that gives you feigned flight on a long-range unit there, which is pretty solid as well. So another interesting option that opens up there, and could really combine for some interesting shenanigans with the other horse archers there with the Parthian shot, just to really, if you're good with that kind of tactic, just to annoy and sort of piss off the opponent. Then, last but not least, we get two other solid options here, which, this list is just spoiled overall, so this is just an interesting one to contemplate playing. But you get elephant with crew armed with spears, javelins, and bows, so you get that monstrosity there, and would seem to fall under the cavalry list. So you could have elephants in quantity in this list on top of everything else that it has too. So again, just so many surprises for an opponent who might just think it's another Greek list, when really it does a whole lot of things here. So let that sink in as well at 24 points for the unit there. And then finally, to wrap things up, another awesome heavy hitting option there. So we get heavy chariots carrying crews with mixed arms, so no chariot runners like we saw with some of the Bronze Age type lists, but another Clash of 9 definitely drops off, but we also get, as part of the mixed arms, seemingly some long-range options there. Doesn't really say what it is as far as like bows or slings, but I would probably just err on the bow side there. But that's not a typo there, but 3-up morale save is pretty damn solid for 33 points a pop. So, and again, chariots were restricted to up to 10%, so it's not like we're gonna have too many of them, but on the other hand, it's still yet another flavor, another wrinkle that we could bring in our force. So it just really depends on how heavy on the infantry or cavalry side you want to go, but it seems like we do get a whole lot of good stuff on both sides, although the best parts of it are, I think, on the infantry side, certainly the Phalangites, just as a solid core. You know what they do. If you've played any of the Alexander or other successor lists, very similar. And then just that mixed Indian medium infantry unit with just spears, javelins, and bows. So just a Swiss Army unit, basically. That can kind of do a little bit of everything for you. And then, the typical range of skirmishers and cavalry options. But again, the cavalry gives you so many good things, from light to medium to heavy, along with, elephants, if you want to call them super heavy, heavy chariots as well. And all that is backed up by leadership 8 across the board, which is, again, pretty standards. Wouldn't make sense to have like any leadership 9 options here. And it's great that we're not dealing with leadership 7, because otherwise that would be maybe a little bit difficult to bring all this sort of diversity into a sort of a cohesive and reliable battle plan, essentially. But overall, this is a really cool list. And again, another thing to try out if you already have a Greek collection, depending on what they're already painted up as, you could try this certainly as a what's if, just to get a taste for the army. And then if you really wanted to do some research and kind of paint them up as actual Bactrians, that could be really awesome too. And again, the inclusion of like Indian troops here really lets you, I think, or gives you some interesting modeling options as well. And could be a really interesting, colorful force on the battlefield, as you kind of see a mix of Western and Eastern influences here all in one army. So definitely one to worth checking out and worth trying up against some of the other historical or contemporary armies, and even some that they maybe never faced, but still worth worth gaming it, I would say. So definitely check out the Bactrians. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let us know in the comments what you think of them. If you've tried to play with them, collect them, or played against them, just let us know your thoughts. Thanks so much again for stopping by, guys, and we will see you in the next one.